Facebook wants to control the world's money supply. What could possibly go wrong?
We have designed this network in such a way that Facebook doesn't and won't control it or the currency, and that there will be plenty of competition.
Mr. Marcus, what does the organization project the average user will have as a Libra balance?
Congressman, we have not projected average balances at this point.
You really expect me to believe that? Facebook is built around average users, average number of hits. Visa, MasterCard, all these huge players are signing up, and you guys have no idea how much you expect to have in the average Libra account?
Congressman, it will really vary depending on where the usage of Libra, the currency, and the network.
Okay, so can you give me a low estimate and a high estimate of what the variation is expected to be?
Congressman, again, we have not made projections for this, but we would be happy to follow up with your office and your team when we do.
Well, I think that, well, first of all, I'm absolutely disbelieve that. Like I said, those organizations are built around understanding their users and what they're anticipating their usage is going to be. And I think that you're just trying to hide that figure because when you actually start doing the math, it becomes very, very alarming.
Mr. Marcus, I've read your white paper. I understand the nature of digital currency and digital technology. What is a Libra?
Congressman, Libra is a digital currency, a reserve-backed digital currency.
Is that a security?
We don't believe it is, Congressman.
Is it a commodity?
Congressman, based on current U.S. law, I believe it might be a commodity, but we see it as a payment tool.
Is it an exchange-traded fund?
It is not, Congressman.
Okay, so when you say that, so it's none of the above in any pure form, like other digital currencies, correct?
Congressman, it is designed to be a payment tool.
A payment tool. Okay. So if it's none of the above in our current regulatory structure, what I'm really getting at is how do you comply with regulations?
Congressman, the way that we comply with regulations is in a number of ways. First, as far as the Calibra wallet is concerned, it's registered as a money services business with Treasury and with FinCEN. It is applying and has received a number of state licenses and will operate the same way that other wallets operate. As far as
that's Calibra. I'm asking about Libra.
So as far as the Libra Association is concerned, these are active conversations we're having, notably with the working group of the G7, as well as FINMA, which is the Swiss financial regulator.
I'm curious, will you put a limit on the amount of any individual transaction? And I know, again, it's early. I recognize the timeline of where we are, but do you expect to put a limit on how much somebody can transfer in Libra to someone else?
Congressman, we're going to continue our engagement, notably with Treasury, on this topic. And my expectation is that there will be limits depending on where the money is sent or where it's coming from. My hope is that between two consumers of American regulated wallets like Calibra and others that will have proper KYC and AML, we can avoid having artificial limits, but we will probably need limits across the network to ensure that those activities can.
And I'm not asking you to put artificial limits in. I was just curious, and obviously I want to make sure you comply with Know Your Customer and anti-money laundering, because that is that's complying with the law, which you said you do, and I think that's really important.
Congressman.
So the same World Bank report finds that almost 2/3 of people who don't have bank accounts say it's because they lack enough money to open one. So here's a rapid fire round for you, Mr. Marcus. Does the Calibra wallet require a bank account? Yes or no?
No, Congresswoman.
Does the Calibra wallet require a smartphone?
Yes, and now you can buy one for
Reclaiming my time. Would these potential users be paid any interest on the money they store in Libra currency?
Congresswoman, it is like cash, and as a result, it doesn't earn interest.
Can we agree that a banker should be trustworthy?
Yes, Senator.
Can we agree that a banker should be honest?
Yes, Senator.
Can we agree that a banker should respect a customer's privacy?
Senator, yes, of course, but we are not going to engage in banking.
When I deposit money into a bank, I am very confident that I can withdraw it from that bank. Okay? My grandfather was not, by the way. What kind of faith do we have in Libra?
Libra is actually going to be backed by a reserve, one for one, so it's not ever going to be a fractional reserve.
Okay.
And as a result, it is designed to be stable and retain its value.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I'm grateful that we're having this hearing today. Thank you, Mr. Marcus, for coming forward today to testify before our committee. So I believe we're here today because Facebook, which is a publishing platform, an advertising network, a personal telecommunications network, a surveillance corporation, a content distributor, now also wants to establish a currency and act through its wallet as, at minimum, a payment processor. Why should these activities be consolidated under one corporation?
Congresswoman, the one thing that we are focused on really is solving problems for the very people who are left behind right now, and we believe it's important because we have the ability to invest and we have the products to deliver those services that will solve problems, the same way we've reduced costs for people to communicate on our messaging apps.
I see.
I don't want to talk about optimizing.
Congresswoman?
I want to talk really hard facts, numbers that people can dig into, because I don't think the simple example you gave of the young woman trying to send $200 and you guys are just on a mission to help her send money to her mother in a war-torn country really explains why would you want to get into this business. It's got to be for profit. Where is the profit?
Congresswoman, we've done that for communications for the very same woman you were describing. Now she can communicate with her family for free using our products. It wasn't the case before those products were available.
I'll note you do.
Libra is, according to your white paper, a unit of currency backed by a reserve governed by the Libra Association. Now, to economists, to members of Congress, to accountants, the term backed has a very specific meaning, usually incorporates monetary policy. Yet the Libra white paper does not define backed. Rather, it states that Libra will be, quote, backed by government currency and government securities. So what does backed mean in this, in your sense?
Congresswoman, it means that it will have a reserve, one for every unit of Libra. You will have the corresponding value in stable currencies.
Mm-hmm. And so does this mean, as stated, the Libra Association does not set monetary policy, but it mints and burns coins in response to demand from authorized resellers. As it appears today, if there are more Canadian Libra users than U.S. users, will there be more Canadian dollars in the Libra Reserve to meet potential redemptions?
No, Congresswoman. The way that the reserve basket will be determined will be stable and continue to be stable, and we will work with the G7 working group to ensure that it has the proper.
Thank you.
Somebody is going to have the data on all of the financial transactions that those 200 million people have consummated, which is going to indicate what they're buying, what they're not buying, what their likes are, where they like to shop, just a treasure trove of information.
Senator, when it comes to the Libra Association, they will not have any personal identifiable data, and as a result, they will have no way to.
Somebody will have the data. Who'll have the data?
The wallets that will provide the services will have the data for their own wallets.
Why, with all of your problems, should we trust you on something as important as a worldwide currency and the damage that can come from it?
Senator, this is why we've set up Libra the way we have, which is that we will not control it, and we will be one among 100 different participants that will govern over the network and the currency.
You stated yesterday in front of the Senate committee that you would be open to accepting 100% of your pay in Libra. In the history of this country, there is a term for being paid in a corporate-controlled currency. Do you know what that term is?
I do not, Congresswoman.
It's called scrip. Are you familiar with scrip?
I am not, Congresswoman.
The goal of Libra is to reach the unbanked and underbanked, which is a noble goal. But it's important to remember that those who haven't utilized a bank or credit card will be more susceptible to scammers and predatory practices.
Financial literacy is really important, and that at the Libra Association, there will be grant and investment made into financial literacy. And as far as the Calibra wallet is concerned, not only will we have consumer protections that will protect your constituents if they ever have a fraud issue, but we will make sure that there's appropriate education in the product from the get-go.
Truthful reporting has been displaced by flagrant displays of bullshit.
I don't know how to answer that question, Senator.
Okay.
So this governance over the reserve is the Libra Association, correct?
Yes, it is, Congresswoman.
And so currently the Libra Association is governed by Facebook, Uber, eBay, Spotify, Visa, Thrive Capital, Union Square Ventures, and a handful of nonprofits as well as some other partners, correct?
It is correct.
Were they democratically elected?
No, Congresswoman, but we hope that we will have the proper regulatory oversight because we agree with you that this should have the proper oversight to ensure proper.
So who picked the founding members of this governance over the currency?
Congresswoman, the membership is open based on certain criteria. The first 27 other companies that have joined are the companies that have shared that desire to come and build this network and solve problems.
I see. So we are discussing a currency controlled by an undemocratically selected coalition of largely massive corporations. Do you believe currency is a public good?
Congresswoman, I believe that sovereign currencies should remain sovereign, and we do not want to challenge sovereign currencies. We just want to augment their capabilities in a way that they can be.
But do you believe currency is a public good?
Congresswoman, I believe that sovereign currencies are sovereign, and as a result, they should continue.
So do you believe
to
Libra should be a
right.
public good?
Congresswoman, again, we will work with all of the regulators and address all concerns, and the regulators will determine.
All right. I'll take that as a no. I should take that as a no?
It is not for me to decide, Congresswoman.
Okay.
How can we be assured that our money is going to be there?
Senator, when it comes to Libra, because the reserve is actually 1-for-1 and not fractional, the issue we've had in the events that you highlighted were because some of these institutions didn't have the appropriate reserves.
Didn't have, okay.
And we also want the appropriate regulatory oversights to ensure that anyone will have the ability to understand how big the reserve is and how many Libra coins, if you will, are in circulation at any given point in time to rest assured that the value they hold is backed at any given point in time with the same amount in the reserve.
So there's tension between the notion of a decentralized currency or something decentralized and ultimately privacy and ultimately anti-money laundering and know your customer elements. These things stand in conflict with one another and very difficult things to resolve. In your white paper, you say after 5 years, there'll be a transition point. And you will go from a permissioned-based to a permissionless system. Post-transition, how do you reconcile the need for controls which allow you to comply with anti-money laundering and KYC, know your customer regulations, with that decentralized notion of a fully decentralized digital currency?
It's a very good question, Congressman. And the way that this will work is that the association will still have the ability to set the rules when it comes to anti-money laundering programs, CFT and KYC requirements for the network. And what we expect, even when the network transitions to permissionless without getting lost in the weeds, is that the vast majority of validators will likely be the ones providing services, so likely larger companies.
So you're saying in the nature of the wallet, that's how you get to anti-money laundering, know your customer, not the nature of the digital currency. So going to a permissioned, going from permissioned system with these nodes, ultimately 100, to a permissionless system, you're saying it's not going to be in the nature of that technology of a Libra, it'll be in the nature of the wallets on either side of this?
That is correct, Congressman, but on top of that, the Libra Association will continue to have an AML program and will still be under the supervision of FinCEN.
Okay, so getting into that question of anti-money laundering provisions and complying with FinCEN, is your view that you're going to be like Western Union, or is it going to be your view that you're more like your former employer PayPal?
Congressman, I believe that it depends about the entities you're talking about. As far as the wallets are concerned, it will definitely be more like the PayPal types of businesses that operates in the payments space. And as far as the Libra Association is concerned, that is the conversation we're having because...
So is this your view, the development internally at Facebook, is for you to be a competitor to Alipay and to WePay?
Congressman, yes.
And to be a competitor to Venmo and PayPal?
Congressman, so yes, we have a number of wallets that are working with us on the network side, but that will compete on the wallet side on the network.
Will that consumer data be kept separate or a part of the Calibra data collected from consumers? Will that be a part of Facebook's overall knowledge of consumers, or will it be separate and distinct?
No, Congressman, we will make strong commitment to keep that data separated from social data.
Separate and distinct?
Yes.
Final question here. So if you're seeking to be a competitor to Alipay and to WeChat, why are you doing this in Switzerland, and why are you using a basket of currencies? Why not the good old American dollar, and to bring down the transaction costs, which is seemingly the ultimate goal here?
Congressman, first, I want to say that the choice of Switzerland has nothing to do about evading responsibilities or oversight. The goal of Switzerland is to home this Libra Association in an international place that is the home of WTO.
Skip beyond that.
And so that's really why. The second thing is, for the same reason, we would like for Libra to be a digital global currency, and as a result to be one unit of digital currency for the whole world. And this is why we believe it was the right approach.
Thank you.
Highlighted a lot of background information about Bitcoin and about the immutable distributed ledger and the benefits of that, decentralization versus centralization. A lot of people in this space will use a phrase that you may be familiar with. There's Bitcoin and then there's shitcoin. Are you familiar with that phrase and what people might mean by that?
I am.
So could you elaborate on how people would differentiate the two?
Absolutely. I think the idea here is Bitcoin has had a long track record. The network has been operating for 10 years. The Bitcoin network has been tested. The decentralized nature of the Bitcoin protocol has been tested. People have tried to co-opt control of Bitcoin source code and push it in certain directions that benefit their business models. And this network and this protocol and its open source governance have withstood that test. It is robust, it has been tested, and it has had the benefit, frankly, of spending its first 5 years in its nascency, sort of operating in this environment of innovation and not having a lot of regulatory attention.
Is there a central authority that could dilute the value of Bitcoin?
No.
Is there a central authority that could filter transactions at Bitcoin?
No, that can only be done through the products and services that people utilize to access the network.
Like Coinbase, for example.
Absolutely. That is a U.S. company that is regulated based on the facts of what its business model is.
The world that Satoshi Nakamoto, author of the Bitcoin white paper, envisioned, and others are building, is an unstoppable force. We should not attempt to deter this innovation, and governments cannot stop this innovation. And those that have tried have already failed. So the question then becomes, what are American policymakers going to do to meet the challenges and the opportunities of this new world of innovation? Some politicians want us to live in a permission-based society where you need to come to government, ask for its blessing before you can begin to even think about innovating. Those are the politicians that would rather kill it before it grows. But there are others who believe in the vibrancy of American ingenuity, American innovation, that recognizes our economy is built off of generations of entrepreneurs and innovators through competition, through testing, through tinkering, through iterating, got us here today.
Bitcoin is the world's first cryptocurrency, and it works because of the world's first public blockchain network. What does Bitcoin do? It's simple. It lets you send and receive value to and from anyone in the world using nothing more than a computer and an internet connection. Now, why is it revolutionary? Because unlike every other tool for sending money over the internet, it works without the need to trust a middleman. The lack of any corporation in between means that Bitcoin is the world's first public digital payments infrastructure. And by public, I simply mean available to all and not owned by any single entity. Now, we have public infrastructure for information, for websites, for email. It's called the internet. But the only public payments infrastructure that we have is cash, as in paper money. And it only works in face-to-face transactions. Before Bitcoin, if you wanted to pay someone remotely over the phone or the internet, then you could not use public infrastructure. You would rely on a private bank to open their books and add a ledger entry that debits you and credits the person you're paying. And if you both don't use the same bank, well, then there'll be multiple banks and multiple ledger entries in between. With Bitcoin, the ledger is the public blockchain, and anyone can add an entry to that ledger, transferring their Bitcoins to someone else. And anyone, regardless of their nationality, race, religion, gender, sex, or creditworthiness, can for absolutely no cost create a Bitcoin address in order to receive payments digitally. Bitcoin is the world's first globally accessible public money. Is it perfect? No. Neither was email when it was invented in 1972. Bitcoin's not the best money on every margin. It's not yet accepted everywhere. It's not used often to quote prices, and it's not always a stable store of value.